I try to pray each morning before I start my day. I manage this about half the days of my week. I've got 3 small kids. My spouse and I both work full-time. I'm tired, like, constantly. I recently purchased a really cozy duvet. So I've got some really solid reasons for why I only hit my goal about 50% of the time. And then when I do manage to get out of bed to seek God, 9 times out of 10, my mind wanders too much to connect. In fact, I've begun to realize that I'm not even sure how to connect. Or maybe I spend all the energy I do have trying to replicate the ways I've connected with God before. In my best moments, I manage to connect with myself, but then I just end up getting even more in my own way. And inevitably, I just start making lists for what needs to get done that day without even realize I'm doing it. Throughout history, Christians have engaged the character of Mary as a prototype for prayer. God called her to a task, the most important task in the history of the world, and apparently she said yes. The same God who appeared to Job from a whirlwind of terror to question his very questioning, this is the God who appeared to Mary, just like a teenage girl on her bed, and she said yes. As if she could have said no. I mean, that's the question for me in this story. Could she have said no? I want an answer to this question so bad, but I don't think we get to know. I know the angel told her not to be afraid, but was this a command or comfort? Was it preemptive, like, hang on, Mary, this is going to be scary? Or was it a response to the terror he saw flash across her face? Both interpretations are possible, none of them definitive. We can guess, we can interpret according to our own interpretive frames, but we can never know for sure. Over the course of my faith life, I've joined with communities who take Mary's story in 2 really different directions. One side simply rejects the story of the virgin birth as yet one more point on a long line of religious patriarchal control of women's bodies. The other side takes it literally and simply demands that we must trust that God is good. I actually resonate with both sides, but the former erases God's power and the latter erases Mary's. And neither grapples with the mess of a power imbalance, of the tussle of divine and human agency at play in Mary's consent to God and in our consent to God. And that for me is the conundrum at the heart of prayer in general. I don't actually know what I'm getting into when I pray, and that's why it's so hard for me to get out of bed every morning to do it, because on some level it scares me. God is powerful and I'm not. And if I were truly present to God, I'd be undone. If I were truly present, I'd be opened up to my own destruction. I'd be courting obliteration. Destruction or a cozy duvet, I mean, the choice seems pretty clear to me most mornings, at least when I'm hitting that snooze button. This transgressive devotion avoids the snooze button to instead explore a sacred space of fear. Because I also know there's something glorious in being undone, that being destroyed by desire could be fun, that there's ecstasy in obliteration, even perhaps especially when it frightens me. That's the kind of fear I invite you to consider as you go through this devotion's meditations and responses. You've got a few choices for where you want to head after you finish this devotion. If you came here to fear from presence, probably the best place to go next is risk. We transgress and thereby transform fear, not with courage, but with risk. At least on this journey we do. Or if you came here from abandonment, it might make some sense to head over to certainty next, because the temptation when we're frightened can be to grasp at security, to grasp at what we know. So maybe you need to do a little undoing over there instead. And if you're just meandering around to the beat of your own drum, head to wherever your desires take you. God is somewhere here luring you. Trust your gut and follow.